Did you know your body has its own internal wireless network? Seriously, it's not Wi-Fi, but it's this silent chemical conversation that's constantly running in the background, shaping everything from your growth to your mood. Today, we're diving into this incredible command center, the endocrine system.
So think about it for a second. Your body is made of literally trillions of cells. How in the world do they coordinate on these huge long-term projects like growing up or managing your mood or just regulating your energy day to day? There has to be some kind of command and control system, right?
Well, it turns out your body has two master control systems running the whole show. You've got the nervous system and you've got the endocrine system. Both of them are all about communication, but, and this is the key, they operate in completely different ways. Let's start with the one you probably know best, the neural system. Think of it like a wired connection, like an old-school telephone line or an Ethernet cable. It's incredibly fast, sending signals from one specific point directly to another. It's perfect for quick reactions, like pulling your hand away from a hot stove. But that point-to-point connection, that's also its biggest weakness.
See, that wired network, all those nerves, they just don't connect to every single cell in your body. It would be impossible, not practical at all. So, how do you send a message to all the cells, or at least give them all a chance to hear it? You need a wireless system, a chemical broadcast system that uses your bloodstream as its own personal radio waves. And that right there is the endocrine system.
Okay, so if this is a wireless broadcast system, what are the actual messages being sent? They're not radio waves, of course. They're these highly specialized chemicals called hormones.
Let's just quickly break down the classic definition of a hormone, because every word here matters. It's a chemical messenger that is non-nutrient. That means your body can't use it for energy. It's produced in tiny, tiny trace amounts, and yet it can travel all the way through your blood to deliver these powerful instructions to cells that are super far away.
And these features are absolutely critical to how they work. Hormones get dumped straight into the blood from what we call ductless glands, and that non-nutrient part is genius because it means that other cells don't just gobble them up for energy along the way. The message has to arrive intact. And because each hormone is like a very specific key designed for a very particular lock, you only need a tiny amount to have a huge effect.
So you might be wondering, how does a hormone, just floating around in the bloodstream with a million other things, know exactly where to go and what to do? How does it find its target? Well, it's all thanks to a really elegant system. We call it the key and lock system, and it works exactly like it sounds. A gland releases a hormone, that's the key, into the blood. That key then travels everywhere, all over your body. But it just floats past most cells, ignoring them. Why? Because it can only unlock cells that have a very specific, perfectly matching receptor. That's the lock. Only when that key fits into that lock does the cell get the message and spring into action. It's a brilliant way to have a widespread broadcast with incredibly precise, targeted results.
Okay, so we've got glands releasing hormones that act on specific cells. But who tells the glands what to do in the first place? Who's in charge of this whole operation? As you might guess, there's a clear chain of command.
And to understand it, let's use a pretty simple analogy. Think about it like a company. At the very top of the endocrine system, you've got a CEO and you've got a general manager. And they work together to run the entire organization, which is, your body. The CEO is a tiny part of your brain called the hypothalamus. It makes the big, high-level strategic decisions. It then passes those orders down to its general manager, the pituitary gland. Now, the pituitary is often called the master gland because it then directs all the other glands in the body. But don't forget, the hypothalamus is the master of the master gland. It's the real boss, pulling the strings from the top.
Now, because these hormones are so unbelievably powerful, getting the amount just right is everything. A tiny bit too much or a tiny bit too little can have dramatic, life-altering consequences. Let's look at a really clear case study to see what I mean.
Let's talk about growth hormone, or GH for short. It's released by the pituitary, our general manager, and its job is, well, that's exactly what it sounds like, to manage your body's growth.
And the impact of getting this hormone's balance right is just staggering. During childhood, if the pituitary gland releases too little growth hormone, the result is dwarfism. If it releases too much, the result is gigantism. The only difference between these incredibly different outcomes is the tiny concentration of a single chemical floating in the blood. It's wild.
But it's not just about the amount, it's also about the timing. What if you get a surge of growth hormone in adulthood after your main growing is done? Well, that causes a condition called acromegaly, which can lead to severe disfigurement, especially in the face, hands, and feet. It just goes to show you how critical both the level and the timing of these hormonal signals are.
So to kind of wrap this all up, from your sleep cycle to your stress response, from your growth to your metabolism, this silent chemical conversation is constantly happening in the background. It is shaping who you are and how you function, every single moment of every single day.
And that really leaves us with one final big thought. We've seen the dramatic effect of just one hormone being out of balance. But this whole network involves dozens of them working in concert. So what happens when this delicate chemical conversation gets disrupted? Not just by internal issues, but by the chemicals in our environment, our food, our water. It's a question that really highlights just how vital, and maybe how vulnerable, our body's wireless network truly is. Thanks for joining me.